It's a little thing people call freedom, and most of us take all we can get, because it seems like there isn't enough to go around so that everyone gets the same amount. We both stop talking as we descend the stairs to the abandoned subway terminal. Empty vendors' stalls, pieces of garbage littering the concrete, cobwebs and dust inhabiting the cracks and corners greet us as our feet crushing the garbage stirs up the stench of age, mold, and something I really don't want to guess. I wrinkle my nose, but don't cover my nose to try to protect my senses from the smell. Not in front of Chase. I sneak a glance at him, and see with little surprise that the stench doesn't seem to affect him at all. The last thing I want to do is make him think I'm weak. It's bad enough that he doesn't think anything of my hacking skills. And what was all that about, his little speech about freedom? Everyone getting the same amount of freedom. Obviously that's never going to happen. Criminals deserve to be in lock-up, just like people who haven't committed crimes are allowed to keep walking around and getting on with their daily lives. It's the way of the world. Chase reaches behind him into his backpack, pulls something out, and clicks it on. A small flashlight, but it gives off an enormous beam of light that shines down the steps as we walk to the sides of the tracks. The deserted platform smells of old cement, and a cold wind howls through the tunnels. No one's been using the subways since the whole Pures versus Curses got started. Chase mutters, more to himself than to me. I don't even know how the whole idea got started in the first place. Dutch started sliding with us before, in his timeline. 1945, so who knows if he was actually a Sixer or from 7. We just assumed he was a Sixer, because the Americans weren't involved in the fights, but that doesn't mean it wasn't actually 7 messed up times 10 to the power of 6. What are you talking about? Chase blinks and jerks his head back, as if awakening from a stupor, and glances at me, as if seeing me for the first time. Sorry, just thinking out loud again. I tend to do that a lot, so you should only pay half of your attention to me, and worry about other stuff in the meantime. If you drop everything you're doing to hear me, more often than not you're gonna wind up disappointed. Okay. My brows furrow as I try to figure out what he means. Heads up. We've got company. Chase mutters. Looks like they got tired of waiting. He hops down from the platform onto the tracks. I stare at him. Aren't you worried about the off chance of a train coming? Nah, like I said, they haven't used this system since they invented hovercrafts. What? I exclaim, hopping down after him. You never said that. You said that it hasn't been used since the whole Pures versus Curses fiasco started. They have hovercrafts, flying saucers, if you ask me. A surly voice rumbles from the darkness ahead of us. I search wildly for the voice and can see the dim outline of a large man. But Chase's flashlight, as it searches the tunnel, shines right through it. Nobody asked you. Now did they? Chase sallied. Where's everyone else? The voice pauses. Shit, he grumbles. Can't find them. It's like I'm in the dark or something. If you're in my head, smuggler. The voice trails off, and I hear some liquid swirl and a loud gulp. You'll get pissed drunk and forget all about it. Chase finishes for him. Chase turns to me. I would like to introduce you to Dutch. Unfortunately, I can't, because the guy won't make himself visible. A larger, burly figure steps into Chase's flashlight beam, illuminating ragged clothing, a dirty beard, and deep-set eyes that blink rapidly in the light. In one hand, he holds a large dark glass bottle, in the other he holds a black backpack like mine and Chase's. Would you turn off those headlights? He growls in a deep voice. Can hardly see with you shining all those watts in my eyes. Just how drunk are you? Chase asks, angling the flashlight away from Dutch's face. Sober enough to walk. Not much else, so I take it that this place has been deemed safe enough for you to consume alcohol. We're not going to force it anytime soon. I wouldn't know. No one tells me nothing. He takes another long swig from the bottle. Don't tell me that actually came from your pack. Chase asks, amazed. Dutch holds it up proudly, the sudden movement knocking him slightly off balance. It did. It's the best yet. You say that every time. Do you even remember how the last one tasted? Nope. Do you remember the 5 beers you drank in the time Amar drank a glass of water? Don't think so, but there were 7 bottles at the end. You actually are drunk, aren't you? How much do you even have left in there? Not enough to go around. Then again, they never give me enough for even myself. So how can you expect me to share with you? You greedy moocher, don't start with me, drunk, and don't call me a moocher, Dutch slurs. His gaze slips to me. Who's this? Nobody said nothing about a new guy, actually, new girl. Her name is D. No, it's not. I start, but Chase steps on my foot hard. Ow. Hey, that hurt, don't you remember what we talked about earlier? Tell Dutch your real name and he'll call you anywhere from vodka to fireworks, and any sort of drink in between. Chase hisses at me. Then, louder. D, this is Dutch. He's our resident drunkard, but on the side, he helps the group out by being our chauffeur. Don't get in a drinking contest with him, because you won't remember anything of the next few days, especially if he gets you to drink any of his concoctions. Those things are so potent I'm surprised Skip lets them slide. Skip controls what travels with us. Dutch asks, his words slightly slurred. I didn't know that. Guess that's why he's the boss, right? 'Cause he knows what everyone needs to succeed. He takes another swig. Yeah, except in your case it's more like failure. Chase replies wryly. He turns to me as we start walking again. Now don't you start following in Dutch's army boots and believing everything you misinterpret. Skip doesn't control what travels with us between timelines, dimensions, Dutch growls from behind. Chase shoots him a dirty look. Whatever. Tomato, tomato. He turns back to me again. What I meant by Skip letting Dutch's booze slide is that he actually lets Dutch to have that stupid brew on him. Makes sense. Dutch is bound to get drunk, one way or another, if he doesn't have his bottle with him, though. It's virtually impossible to figure out which bar he's gonna go to. Even with the link, something I assume you're gonna explain in more depth once we get in a green zone. Actually, they're at a club called Blue Zone. Dutch interrupts again. Chase gives him a baleful look. I thought you couldn't find them. Dutch shrugs. Meh. Jess's always been a real kicker when it comes to finding him. He's practically yelling about where he is in the link. The others are kind of muffled, but that's always been the case when Jess is on the air, or when you're drunk as a skunk. Ow. Ease up on the brawn, would you? Chase massages the back of his head. I glance behind me at a grinning Dutch. He winks at me through the wrinkles that surround the corners of his eyes. The rest of the walk is relatively quiet, and Chase's flashlight makes the dark tunnel a little more creepy. The steady drip of water falling from some unseen pipe into a puddle that's already begun to turn into a small stream that trickles slowly in some unseen direction begins to grate on my nerves, but neither of my newfound buddies feels like breaking the silence, and I don't want to look weak by starting up a conversation. My head's already spinning, just by ideas about what my leaking black all over the place was supposed to mean. I glance at what I'm wearing, the same baby t-shirt and cargo pants I had worn when I had collapsed exhausted on my bed. Black and blue. But that's not what Jesse had meant. My clothes wouldn't bug him and Chase that much that they would stop in the middle of an argument to tell me to not leak out so much. Chase and Jesse seemed like they argued often, and once they got started there was no chance of getting them to stop. My attention turns to Dutch, a member of the same team as Chase and Jesse and Skip. A sixer. Chase had called him. What was that supposed to mean? Was he the kind of guy who just hung out all the time at bars, or was there any truth at all to what Chase had claimed? So many questions, nowhere near enough answers. My shoe kicks through a clump of something. Chase gags. Good lord. Petite, do you have to kick through every single pile of raccoon waste product? The stench reaches me too, and I blanch at the sudden wafts of dung that stink up the already stale air. Dutch takes a few quick steps to match pace with us, and laughs at my expression. You know you're from the cleaner part of a city when, knock it off. Dutch. Chase growls. Keep sharp. We're on the edges of a hodge, I ask as we near a light glowing from around the next corner. Hodge. Chase nods. Mixture between house and lodge. Basically, an underground city, but never call it that in public. These people will pick you out as an outsider the minute you open your trap. Speaking of outsiders, he leans ahead a little bit to catch Dutch's eye around me. Care to lend me that raggedy old bust of a jacket? I seem to be a little clean for wear. You'll pay the usual. Chase sighs dramatically. The next time I get shotgun, I hand over my claim to you. Dutch takes off the jacket without another word and tosses it to Chase. Sniffing it suspiciously, Chase puts it on without vocal complaint. But you can tell by the way he wrinkles his nose that he doesn't like the idea of wearing it. Dutch glances at him, giving him a solid look over shoes. Chase shoot him an exasperated look, but Dutch ignores it. And do something else with your hair. That comb over is depressing enough when you have to see Hitler wearing one. We're in the blooming 80s. Spike it. Play it, braid it for all I care. Just get rid of the stupid comb over. You're too young to go bald. He glances at me. You're fine. You've got a weird taste for what makes the cut as curse, but you definitely can't be mistaken for a pure. Maybe claim that you're from Canada. Or better yet, you're a mute, so I'll make up a cover story for you. His words have slowly become more and more coherent as he keeps on talking. Although, I've got to ask, where did you get those clothes? You were in pure territory, so why not go for a pure target? I woke up wearing this, don't tell me that's what you usually wear. Not that style of clothes, you must be kidding. She's kidding, right Chase? I'm not. Dutch tips his bottle into his mouth and gulps down a huge amount before coming up for air. He wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, sighs, and walks faster to get ahead of us. I can hear voices coming from around the corner. Chase sighs, running fingers through his hair to loosen up the stiff locks before shoving both hands in the pockets of Dutch's jacket. When did he become such a fashion tycoon? I growl, shivering in the damp air. Chase takes one look at me before pulling me up short and rummaging around in my backpack to come up with my jacket. I accept it gratefully and pull it on, still cold, but a little better. It's a hobby of his. He's our master of disguise. If it weren't for that pot belly of his, he could probably pull off a scam as a hot hooker with a short skirt. He could probably even raise his voice a couple hundred octaves so that he even sounds like a woman, if he wasn't drunk all the time. But the bottle always gives him away, so he sticks with telling everybody else how to blend in while he sticks out like a sore thumb on parade. He sighs. Anyways, we're almost entering the Hodge. Want some last-minute advice? I nod, and he continues, his raising his voice as the ruckus from up ahead grows louder. Don't stare. Don't try to talk. Nothing. Stick close to me. Keep your head down. I may look like a pure, but I've been able to wing it before. Claim espionage, all that stuff. If we do get separated, curl up in an alleyway and don't make a sound. We'll be able to find you, just like me and Jesse did before. Things get pretty crazy down here. And if you hear the words Red Hour, run. Run as fast as you can in the same direction as everyone else. What's Red Hour? Chase grimaced. That's when Hitler's army invades, gassing the entire place with strategically placed vents when they've decided that the curse's infestation has gone on long enough. After all, he goes on, expounding a hand to the chaos that we come face to face with as we turn the corner. Hodges are nothing but underground concentration camps glossed over with the illusion of Depression era. The Hodge begins as soon as we take 2 steps past the bend, starting as suddenly as a bolt of lightning to the naked eye. Run-down hovels of cardboard lean against brick structures. The place starts out as an old station, but I can't even see the end of the place. The track is something of a path, with most of the dwellings on the platform. Some people hawk their wares on boxes opposite the platform, engaging anyone and everyone. No matter what they're wearing. Just because someone doesn't have money to get new clothes, doesn't mean they don't have a spare penny to spend on a few trinkets. And most things are selling for pennies, and they could be anything: scraps of cloth, boxes of band-aids, bracelets, or small portraits that look Catholic by the halo around each head. The people swarm around us. The ones closer noticing how much we stand out. Even my not-so-sophisticated look is cleaner than anything these people have ever seen. The crushing masses push past us as we delve deeper into their home. People yelling at each other, creaks of machinery, the buzz of conversations overlapping each other, all mingle with the acrid smell of diesel fuel and the sweet tang of spices. Butter sizzles on a frying pan somewhere, the rest of the pan giving off a spicy smell that makes my mouth water as my mind tries to guess what it might be. Sharp eye. Chase mutters to me. These people will rob you blind. It doesn't help that we have these backpacks with us. Just by their size and bulk, people will think we have stuff worth stealing. He runs a hand through his hair, muffing up the already destroyed comb over in a futile attempt to make himself blend in. He grabs my hand and forces his way through the crowds, making little headway. But at least establishing a steady pace. Nobody reacts in anger when he shoves them out of the way, and he returns the favor by not growling at anyone who comes too close. I use my free hand to hold onto my backpack, wrapping my arm around behind me, effectively covering all the zippers and keeping people from sneaking stuff out. I remember the jackknife now in my possession, can feel its weight tugging at the bottom of my left pocket. Chase guides us to the end of the station, ducking into a tunnel that opens out into a huge room. Tables line the sides accompanied by worn-out chairs and booths, and directly ahead of us is a bar, a couple people sitting on the stools. The overhead lights cut in and out, whether by short circuit or design, as music pounds out of an unseen stereo. Between us and the bar is a dance floor, couples young and old alike dancing to the beat. On the fringes, a few couples are slow dancing. Not even close to being in tempo with the fast rhythm. Chase guides me over to one of the booths, already crowded with 5 people, including Dutch and Jesse. The other 3 people are a woman with dark hair, whose presence sets me on edge, a small man with chocolate brown eyes and a slight build, and a middle-aged man with a ginger-red beard who keeps his gaze on me as Chase introduces me to all 3. Kentucky. Amar, and Skip, don't bother asking for his actual name. Chase yells in my ear. Skip's kept that a secret for years. He's not going to bother telling you. According to him. It's need to know, and apparently we don't. How come you didn't link up? Kentucky shouts at Chase, more to be heard than anything else, earning her an irritated look from Amar beside her. Because that one's jamming our signal. Chase shouts back, jerking a thumb at me as he leans towards the center of the table. I still can't link up, even though we're directly across from each other. Kentucky drops her head for a moment before it snaps back up, her eyes gravitating to me. A chill runs down my spine as I see her eyes. They're backwards, white pupils, black irises, and green surrounding the compound. How's that possible? I can't even sense you, at all. You aren't a member of the Black, are you? Since I still don't know what that is, probably not, she shrugs. Well, they do have minions everywhere, so it wouldn't surprise me if they had a few minions who didn't even know they were minions while carrying out the Black's orders. What's the Black? I holler back. Do you two have to include the entire club in this? Skip demands, casting his angry blue eyes between me and Kentucky. Keep in mind where we are. This place knows nothing, but they hate any sort of top-secret organization, so everybody stands down. We're leaving for Canada in the morning, so I'd rather not have to make a detour for the local jail to break out any one of you. In the meantime, have a drink, and we'll find a place to lie low and get some shut-eye. It's in Canada, Amar asks, surprised. Skip nods. Yes, specifically in the Prime Minister's private office. No way, Jesse exclaims, excited. You've gotta let me in there. Skip. This is a chance of a lifetime. Why do you care? Your timeline is nothing like this. I just want to see democracy in action. That's all. Jess's voice is innocent, but the wicked gleam in his eye and the smirk that now spreads across his face speak otherwise. Skip sighs and shakes his head. Yeah, we're going to need your skills on this one anyways. Yes, Jesse high-fives Amar and Dutch, and the reaches across the table to high-five me. I answer half-heartedly. Did we have to meet here? Chase asks. Skip shrugs. Seemed like a good idea, considering we always meet up in the exact center of landing, so that everyone has an equal distance to travel and no excuse to be late without a heads up. Don't worry, he interrupts Chase's attempt to speak. Jesse already explained the situation in full. For some reason, our new member, Brandee here, is a little bit different than the rest of us. Kentucky snorts. A little. Do you hear yourself talking, Skip? She's weird. Just admit it already. There's no point in beating around the bush when you can just shoot an arrow at the boar that's gone to ground. What does that even mean? Jesse asks. Kentucky shrugs. How should I know, because you're the one who said it. Chase joins in on the attack. She's just asking Skip to get to the point already, instead of stating the obvious all the time like he has a habit of doing. Amar translates. Dutch nods solemnly before swiping Amar's untouched glass and choking it down. Amar doesn't seem to notice. Though, now that's out of the way. Skip cuts off any further ribbing. Let's get out of here. We've got to sneak across the border tomorrow, probably using the tube, subway. Skip. It's called a subway, Jesse corrects him. Our little group leaves as one. As Skip tosses some red bills on the table before taking the lead. We practically link arms outside the club to keep from losing each other. Jessie sticks close to one side of me. Chase on the other, and Dutch bringing up the rear. Chase glances back a few times at him, as if to make sure he hadn't disappeared, and each time, Dutch just grunts and ignores him. We end up in a small stairwell, and everyone sprawls out along the steps, with only Chase complaining. We have got to find better digs than this. But soon. He's fast asleep with the rest of them. Me. I spend a sleepless night, my eyes taking in the ludicrous scene of the 6 people sleeping nearby that have somehow become important to my survival as my mind tries to make sense of everything that's happened. Jessie sits up, only to collapse back against the stairs in a new, equally uncomfortable position. Welcome to the Sliders world. He mutters. Illegal jobs, crappy cribs, and no pay, all a part of the package. He's sound asleep an instant later, and I'm unable to ask him any more questions until light. Desperate. How could she have not heard me? There must be something interfering. Something that refuses to allow me to speak with my master. I know now that it isn't natural to have gone so long without speaking to her. I should have been able to communicate with her before this happened. I should have been able to warn her. So why couldn't I stand alone, as always, but now the inner world has changed. I can no longer see the sun or the cold distant sky that was a constant. Instead, everything is dark, blacks and grays, no real shapes. The motes move in cloud-like formations, swirling with some unnoticed air current. The wind has disappeared, as has the rain and lightning. I saw my master. Mistress. I suppose I should call her. I finally, after waiting so long in a place where time has never held much meaning. I have finally seen her, the one to whom I am forever bound to serve and protect. To protect her and thus protect whatever she wills to protect. Her will is now my will, her heart mine, her hopes, aspirations, and dreams have all been integrated into my core. I know they have. If only I could access them. But that too is regulated by her. First, she must hear my name and call me by it. Then, and only then, will I be able to finally assist her. But is there any way to really get her attention? So that it would be impossible to not hear me when I say my name. Humans are fragile creatures. There must be some way to get her to listen, to acknowledge me, so that I can know what it is she wishes. I'm useless if I can't do that. The motes swirl about me, hissing in their curiosity, supplying ideas of what I could try. Only one seems to be possible, but again, humans are fragile creatures, easy to mistrust that which they do not understand. How would my mistress react to what they are suggesting? There is only one way to find out. I only hope it is soon, in the relative terms in accordance with her time theory. The sooner the better. I sigh as I focus the motes about me into the weapon I need for the delicate task ahead of me. Electric shock. The next few days are all a blur, us getting to know each other as we start to make the trek along the dark subway tunnels on our way to Canada. I learn a few new things about my new crew, as Jessie calls us. He's always talking like that, mixing in familiar terms with stuff so that the whole picture is twisted beyond recognition, from anything of organized drifters to tyrants who are loved by the common people to the normalcy of every son of the head of a family learning some sort of trade that in any other timeline would be considered illegal, but not when it's the head son. He's actually applauded for his adeptness at stealing things without people noticing. I don't believe him, but the others take him seriously enough, even though Chase complains that Jess's only told them about 1,000,000 times about how he was so much more privileged as a kid than the rest of them. Mainly, the only thing Chase said was to shut up. But Kentucky was pretty talkative, explaining about how, unlike Chase, the rest of the gang refers to alternate timelines as dimensions, same thing. Chase muttered at that. Catching Kai's eye, he added, "Shut up." Ignoring Chase. Kentucky continued to explain how since there was an infinite amount of alternate dimensions, based on the theory that dimensions had been in the make since the beginning of time, or rather, when the first decision was made pertaining to the physical realm. Realm is a broad term that covers the dimensions and beyond, basically if you can go there it is classified under the realm. In order to not get so easily confused and to give themselves something to do, the gang had come up with a classification of the dimensions based on where they had visited so far. There are 7 categories. Numbered 1 through 7, in case it wasn't obvious. We have them numbered chronologically, using Dimension 7's timeline as a reference to whenabouts the other dimensions formed. Mainly, the lines between dimensions are blurred, but sometimes it's pretty obvious that you're in 3 and not in 4, and blah blah blah. Each dimensional category has one particular trait that stands out. 6 is a little bit harder to tell from 7, but the rest are pretty straightforward. 1 is pitch black, with a neutron star as a sun that casts no light. 2 has Earth covered in water. We're thinking that the flood never receded. 3 has Muslims ruling the entire known world. Even in their 21st century they still haven't found the Americas. 4 is a little hectic, but suffice it to say we hardly ever go there, so don't worry about it too much. 5 is a big one, we end up there more than anywhere else. Chase is from there. He could probably give you a more in-depth description of what exactly makes it unique from the other 6, but it boils down to the Brits getting their butts kicked and their land conquered by the French. The French turned out to be the major players in the global domination game, and from Chase's part of the grand scheme of that timeline. English is a dead language and the world is in chaos. I'm not saying anything about the French, but I'm glad that they all got eaten by the Leviathan in Dimension 1. 6 is where we are now, or at least we're in a subcategory of it. Hitler won the war, blah blah blah. 7 is the one you're from. Plus it's the one we use to categorize the other ones, so there's not really any point in my explaining it. She takes one look at my face. Did any of that make sense, kinda? The whole idea that the French messed everything up. Don't go dissing France, Jessie interrupts, casting a glance at Skip's back. Last time we checked, the French were helping the English underground in 4, and Skip's all about revolutions, being British and all that, so to stay in his good graces. Don't mention the French at all. Okay, so what should we mention? The fact that you're the one who's actually in charge of bringing Brandee here up to speed. By the way, you should at least pretend that you're helping. Otherwise Skip might get annoyed. Why should he care? I ask, feeling left out. Kentucky looks at me. Because the person who brings you up to speed also stays out of the next few missions, until you're actually trained. Basically, she's implying that I'm useless and make no contribution whatsoever to the team. Jessie interrupts. You said it. Not me. One word stood out from their little banter. Missions. Kai's eyes fly open, and I shrink back, form the suddenly really good look at her eyes in the dim light. Huh. Didn't Chase tell you that yet? He took his sweet time coming last night, so I figured someone had already told you about what we do. I'm guessing something illegal. Shish, Jessie hisses, looking furtively ahead of us. He immediately relaxes though, and I follow his gaze to see that we've dropped way behind the others. Illegal is a dirty word. Never use it around Amar. The poor guy's faith is shaken enough as it is. If you ever refer to the nature of our work, call it something like clandestine operations. Just use big words that if he knew the meanings of he still wouldn't be offended. Why, he's Muslim, Kentucky says shortly. Don't care for it, so don't bring it up with him when I'm around. She shoots Jessie a look over my head. Back on topic, yes, we are in the business of things that are illegal, namely stealing things of immaculate value in one dimension or another. We need to be able to live somehow, so we rob the Federal Reserve or the Tower of London. Jessie laughs. Nothing that drastic, but we might end up doing that on occasion. Just to keep ourselves busy. How do you know something's worth a lot in another dimension if you're never to the same dimension twice? We never arrive at the exact same dimension that we left at any point in our lives. Jessie corrects. But we still manage to travel to dimensional branches. I guess you could call them, that have similar interests in say a sapphire diamond, whereas other dimensions hold no sympathy whatsoever for jewels. We steal the stuff that's easy to grab that we can guarantee is worth a lot more in another dimension. For the most part. Dimension 5. Chase's world is the safest place to unload, but their currency is worthless in other dimensions. And sometimes you end up in an America that is completely like yours, with the only difference being that Washington deals in dollar bills of different colors, like their neighbors to the north. Why, who knows? It's not like we can find out who decided to make the money the way that's not what I meant. I start cutting him off. What I mean is, why is Chase's dimension the safest to unload the goods we steal? Oh, that's because. Jessie replies slowly.